All right. Welcome back, family. Blessed to have you guys joining us as we dive into one of my favorite topics, talking about the firmament. And it's the only structure, as most of you know, that was made on day two of creation. And the proofs for this barrier just keep pouring in. And we are beyond blessed and honored to have George from GeoTruth joining us again to talk about how navigational data and many other things prove that there's a firmament above us. And for some people, their final observation sadly will be when it parts like a scroll. I'm hoping it's not your final observation. And so thank you guys for joining us. I want to go ahead and look and see who all is here. It looks like we have Tyler Porter in the house. Welcome, brother. Lots of things going on. Glad to see you're continuing to shine the light with all the darkness. I know there's just been a dark cloud over the truth community. It's been depressing. I believe it is demonic in origin, with all the powers of darkness trying to divide truth seekers. And it's been sad. And so continue to pray for guidance into navigating this crazy world we're in with all the deceptions and people out there being deceived and all of that. So we really need to pray and unite in spite of all the crazy division that's going on. Looks like we got GR Cleve in the house. Welcome, Peter W. Good to see all of you people. Firmamental, Perth, and over New Brunswick. Glad to have you. Well, I'll be continuing to read the comments as George is going to see if you guys have any questions. We're going to go ahead and bring him on, and we will get started with his presentation because it's a lot to cover. I hope you have notebooks ready. There should be a test at the end of all these lectures, but lots of good information to cover. It's going to get mathematical, as always, and scientific. So be prepared. But here is George. If I can bring him on, let me make sure I do my screen right. There we go. There is George. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, Josh. Shabbat shalom. It's great to be back. Love talking about this subject and getting the truth of Yahuwah out. It's such a blessing.
Yeah, it definitely is. And guys, I'm going to be learning some stuff today. He's already telling me what he's going to be talking about. And it's things that, crazy as it sounds, I have yet to investigate when it comes to the firmament. You think you've seen it all. Even today, I'm finding new things out. And then I start talking to George, and he's telling me things that I'm like, wow, I'm ready to learn. So this is a learning experience for me as well. If you're confused, chances are I'm probably confused a little, but we'll try to go over it. I know some people will watch these videos a few times over until they start figuring things out. Sometimes that's what you have to do. I was never one of those people who could read the math book and learn things right away. I had to try it out, explore it, and really struggle for a long time.
And that's the thing all of us are going through. We're seeking Yahuwah's truth all the time. So when we look at something, we think, oh, well, this might be the right path. This has happened to me easily this past year. And then I see something different and go, well, that's not right. And then I'll look another way and, oh, well, this makes more sense. That happened with the calendar with me this year. It really happened a lot using the sundial. I've learned so much on that sundial, truth on that. And it's just, it tells you that we live on a level plane and there's no curvature, because I know exactly every day when I take a sundial reading at high noon, I know exactly to almost a mile or two where the sun is, on its travel every day. And later on in this presentation, I'm going to show, now I've realized how I can show it on the illusionary globe as well. So Yahuwah's laws for his sun and moon to move, do it. They tried to lie about it with the curvature, but it's still there in the curvature. So we'll get into that later on. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. I can't wait to see this stuff and also share some things as well pretty soon. I was trying to share it before we went live here, and I just couldn't get the video to come to fruition.
Yeah. So I just have one file tonight. It's a long one. So can I get on there? I guess
there you go.
Okay. So this is a start of a video I put out, I don't know, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I actually realized that the data that I thought was wrong, when I realized that the data for the same location of the sun, north or south, it was perfectly mirrored on the equator. And I'm going, well, that's just not true. That's how they're trying to show the globe work, right? Well, then when we actually came into my mind when they had Austin and those guys go down there in Antarctica, and they're seeing a 24-hour sun. And I'm going, okay, well, they're seeing it. And I did a presentation before that where I think, well, if there's sun there, that's not the real sun, right? But I'm going, well, wait a minute. The data is observations made for hundreds of years, not thousands of years. That's what people go by to know where they're at with the sun. Basically, the sun more than the moon. And so, if these things that we observe for thousands, hundreds of years, and now we've got the data that's available for anybody to navigate every day for the last couple hundred years, and it's going to farther out, then it must be true because we're seeing the sun where it's at, or we're seeing the actual sun or perspective of the sun for north of the sun. But if you're south of it, especially south of the equator, you're seeing an apparent sun, and it's being mirrored off of the firmament. I'll say more than one, maybe firmaments. We don't know. So we just kind of get into that. But once I realized, I changed this picture to show that when you see this, where the sun is, it's at the Tropic of Capricorn, which is the winter solstice. And when I first saw this, like, well, this is crazy because the sun is practically covering the majority, like 66% of the Earth, which it would on the globe. But this is a circular level plane Earth, which is much bigger than the globe. And I'm going, yeah. But now if you think about the firmament involved, then it's totally different because the sun is opposite of the nighttime area, which would make sense. But what's happening is on the opposite side of the sun, the curvature of the firmament, and I think it might not necessarily be the first one, it could be the second one that's doing it. It actually creates the light all the way on the other side of the Earth, the circular level plane Earth. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it's exciting to now realize what we see is true, and it can't be taken away. Satan can't take it away. He can only manipulate it and lie about it.
Right.
So, but I'm going to get right into scripture here. Yahweh desires us to diligently seek him. Hebrews 11:3. By faith we understand that the worlds are framed or created by the word of Yahweh, so that the things which are seen were not made of things that were visible. In other words, he created things out of spirit, the ether realm is what he's talking about. In Hebrews 11:6, this is key because I think those of us that earnestly have the heart desire to love you as much as we can with our soul, strength, mind, and ability, that we want to please him. We want to know him exactly what he wants us to do, follow his commandments, and understand his creation. So, but without faith, it is impossible to please Yahuwah. For anyone who comes to him must believe that he is, in other words, he exists, he's the creator, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Diligently seeking him means that we want to know him. Yahusha talks about that in John 17. When he talks about eternal life, he says, this is eternal life, that they may know you, the one true God, and Jesus Christ whom you've sent. So when we seek him, he rewards us with our heart trying to seek him and know him and understand his truth. So the community that we're in, we're all trying to do that. And that's the main thing. If we have something going on where, in the world that says, oh, look, there's, Earth's a globe. Well, don't let that bother us. Just ignore it because we're seeking the Father's truth, not the world's truth, right? It's just a setup for this because that makes a big, big difference. And we talked about this, Josh and I, just before we came on. Yahweh states it is impossible for mankind to know the height of the heavens and the depth of the earth. So I pulled this out. This is Proverbs 25:3, but I got different versions of it because it talks about multiple heavens, not just one. And heavens are firmament. Heavens are like heaven, firmament, and sky is pretty much a similar word. So I'll just go through some of these real quick. The Amplified Bible. As the heavens for the height and the earth for depth, so the hearts and minds of kings are unsearchable. The Berean Bible. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the hearts of the kings cannot be searched. Christian Standard Bible. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the hearts of kings cannot be investigated. Free Bible Version. Just as the height of the heavens or the depth of the earth can't be known, the king's thinking can't be known. So there's an analogy here is what's going on. Jubilees Bible. For the height of the heavens and the depth of the earth and the hearts of the kings, there is no investigation. And Jeremiah 31:7 says the same thing. This is from the Berean Standard Bible. This is what Yahweh says. Only if the heavens above could be measured and the foundations of the earth below searched out, would I reject all of Israel's descendants because of all they have done, declares Yahweh. He's kind of being facetious here. He knows that he's never going to leave his chosen nation. He's just saying it's impossible for mankind to know anything beyond the firmament that we live within. So these are things that we need to have and realize is set up. We don't know. We're going to get into it later on. We don't know the height of the heaven of the firmament that's just right above us, the first firmament. We don't know. We're not allowed to know. If we could, we probably would, but we're not allowed to. So what is biblical cosmology? We hear that said a lot. I think biblical cosmology is the understanding of Yahuwah's creation of the heavens and the earth. It's pretty simple. Yahuwah's scriptures reveal his creation of the heavens and the earth. And he created the heavens and the earth in 6 days and rested on the seventh, Sabbath day, which he blessed and set apart as holy. I'm just giving some references here because I'm not going to go through all of them. But you'll see books that are not in the canon of 66 that the Protestants use. The Book of Jubilees is a great book. People should read it, decide on their own. I've already decided that it is part of Yahuwah's scripture. It's got a lot more information about creation than Genesis does. Genesis kind of does an overarching description of creation, but Jubilees goes into great detail. Yahuwah declares number 7 as being set apart and holy, which is seen within his creation of the heavens and the earth. Here's some examples. 7 days a week, Exodus 20:11. 7 years in a Sabbath year, Leviticus 25:4. 7 Sabbath years, which are 49 years, 7 times 7, Leviticus 25:8. There are 7 firmaments in heavens. And again, we're going to get these from other books outside of the canon. And it's interesting that these books are left out. First Enoch was originally in the canon early on for the church community, but they put it out. They took it out. They should never have done that because First Enoch is another book that has information that is from Yahuwah's words. First Enoch saw holy visions of the heavens, which the angel showed him. Apocalypse of Abraham. Abraham is a key figure in Yahuwah's word. He basically declared that Abraham, he's the chosen one for his holy nation of Israel, where all the descendants will come from. So at one point in that book, the angel Joel from the seventh expanse, seventh firmament over the heavens, this is in chapter 5, informs Abraham Yahuwah has chosen him. Through a holy vision, Abraham is translated from above the seventh firmament to encounter and worship Yahuwah. Abraham describes the firmaments he sees below him. That's in chapters 25 to 27. I highly recommend you investigating into this if you haven't done it, because there's so much information here and you can test it yourself. Test it with other scriptures. Now, the canon of 66 don't have these scriptures because these were written by Abraham, the patriarch, and that was handed down from him to his family. Same way with First Enoch. He handed his writings down to the descendants after him. Noah took it in the ark with him, and so they had that when they came through the flood. The testament of Levi fell upon a deep sleep, and an angel showed him holy visions of the heavens. Levi is one of the 12 sons of Israel. And that's in chapter 2 and 3. And we're going to look at some of these because these have information we need to know about biblical cosmology, or the creation of the heavens and the earth. 7 angels are mentioned in First Enoch: Uriel, Raguel, Michael, Seguel, Gabriel, Raphael, and Phanuel. So we have this number 7 keeps popping up. It's a perfect number for Yahuwah. And then in the tabernacle, there was a 7-candle lampstand that was actually in Yahuwah's heavenly tabernacle that was replicated on the earth, Exodus 25:31 to 40. So what I've done here, as I've broken down, I've done it 2 ways. Biblical cosmology, Yahuwah's creation of the heavens and the earth. We'll talk about the earth first, and then we'll do the heavens later, because the earth, there's some things on the earth that we can go through pretty quickly. So I've got the scripture references here for each day of creation. First day was the earth, waters, firmaments 2 through 7, angels in the abysses. And you can see the scripture references there. Day 2 of creation, firmament 1, between waters above and waters below the earth. That's the only thing that you did on day 2 of creation. Day 3 of creation, dry land, because the waters rolled off of the land. Dry land, sky, rivers, lakes, seas, mountains, seeds, plants, and trees. Now, day 4 really is in one of the firmaments, but we'll just say that day 4, the sun, moon, and stars were created. Day 5, sea monsters, fish, and birds. And day 6, animals, cattle, and male Adam. So I put some notes here. I'm not going to read that all the way through, but this note comes from Jubilees 3:17. Well, maybe we should, because again, Jubilees talks more about what happened during creation, especially the week after it. So if you look at Genesis 1:24-31, it tells you the sixth day he made male and female. Okay, but Adam, we'll see later on in Genesis that Adam's rib was taken out to create female Eve. She was formed out of Adam, put it that way. It's not really creation, but she was formed out of Adam because after the sixth day of creation, all of creation was complete with Yahuwah. So we go down here real quick. So let's read this Jubilees 3:1-7. So it says, and on the 6 days of the second week, this is angels speaking. This is the angelic hosts are speaking to Moses. This part of Jubilees was actually given to Moses on Mount Sinai when he was up there to get the 10 Commandments. So that's what it says. And on the 6 days of the second week after creation, we brought, according to the word of Yahuwah, unto Adam all the beasts and all the cattle and all the birds and everything that moves on the earth and everything that moves in the water, according to their kinds and according to their types. The beasts on the first day, the cattle on the second day, the birds on the third day, and all that moves on the earth on the fourth day, and that which moves in the water on the fifth day. And Adam named them all by their respective names, and as he called them, so was their name. And on these 5 days, Adam saw all these, male and female, according to every kind that was on earth. But he was alone and found no helpmeet for him. And Yahuwah said to us, angels, it is not good for that man should be alone. Let us make a helpmeet for him. And Yahuwah caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept. And Yahuwah took for the woman one rib amongst his ribs, and this rib was the origin of the woman. I can't read that. The thing's in the way. Can you read it, Josh?
Let me see. Yeah, I have it full screen, so it's hard to see. Are you on the bottom line?
Yeah, the slide 5 telling me slide 5. I can't read it. It's hiding it.
Okay. Is it the part where it says, and Yahuwah caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead from there. Yeah.
And Yahuwah took for the woman one rib from amongst his ribs. And this rib was the origin of the woman from amongst his ribs. And Yahuwah built up flesh in its stead and built the woman. And Yahuwah awakened Adam out of his sleep. And on awaking, he rose on the sixth day. So this is mirroring that first week, those first 6 days of creation where man was made on the sixth day. This is week 2.
Yep.
And now woman is being made on the sixth day, week 2. Really, really cool. Because Jubilees helped open my eye to that too. That was one of those things that when I was looking into the 6 days, what was made, realizing he wasn't made in the Garden of Eden. He was placed there.
Yes.
And it was after that 6th day. So really, really cool. And it says, and Yahuwah brought her to him, and he know her and said unto her, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called my wife. And him making a woman after he made man, it's so evident when you even look at the chromosomes, the ones that determine gender, the women have more genetic information on their chromosomes that determine their gender because there was more added to them so they could do what they were designed to do. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you see it that way when you look at the X and Y chromosomes. The reason man has an X and a Y, they call it a Y because it's smaller. And you look at the woman, she has 2 X chromosomes. She would need more genetic information to do the things she can do. that man could not do. Really, really cool
Yeah.
seeing that, remnant left over from creation, that little impression he made way back when.
Yeah. So that it's just an amazing when you read all that more detailed information. And the book of Jubilees was given to Moses. He walked down off of Mount Sinai with it to have it, so that they can use that to follow Yahuwah's words. I mean, there's so many things in Jubilees that really Genesis doesn't talk about. But now we're going to switch over to the creation of the heavens because they go aligned with the 6 days of creation. So you can see I got the first line. The first firmament was created on day 2, and so let's just kind of we can skip that one. Let's go. The second firmament, all the way down to the 7th, was created on day 1. So there's a lot of things that were being done on day 1. So let's walk through day 1. Second firmament, sun and moon was created on day 4. You can see all the references I have here. There are some that are in Revelation 12:1 specifically talks about where the sun is. We'll get to that later on too. But Testament of Levi, First Enoch talks about where the sun and moon are in that second firmament. And in Testament of Levi 3:3, it tells us there's a host of angelic armies ordained for the day of judgment. And that was created on day 1. So we're starting to look at things that are set up on day 1 for the day of the Lord, when it talks about in Revelation already. Firmament, the third firmament was created on day 1. And we see that I've got the Garden of Eden here in paradise, New Jerusalem, kingdom of Yahuwah. And you can see these scripture references here. And so I put some notes on here. So the Garden of Eden was created on day 6 of creation and remained on the earth until the worldwide flood. After the worldwide flood, you located paradise in New Jerusalem in the third heaven / firmament, which is his kingdom, and he will return to earth with his son Yahusha at Yahusha's second coming. And then the next things that I have here, 3 and 4, basically is about Yahusha talking about his purpose when he came first time was to preach the kingdom of Yahuwah, which is preaching the kingdom coming down from the third heaven. They'll be back on earth. And Yahusha also taught his disciples how to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is now in heaven. So these are literal, direct prayers that have meaning now when you start looking at the firmament, the heavens, how they're created. So it's being set up for what's going to happen later on in Revelation. So the fourth firmament, again, day 1 is created. Testament of Levi 3:8 tells us the thrones and dominions which angelic hymns are forever offered to Yahuwah. The fifth firmament, created on day 1, was where on day 4 the stars were created to put there. Okay. Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 27, tells us that. It also has angels. So at each of the firmament layers, there's different levels of angels or hierarchies of angels. Angels who bear witness to the angels of the pure spirit created on day 1. Testament of Levi 3:7. Sixth firmament, which is above the fifth, created on day 1. And angels of pure spirit who carry out the commands of the fire angels created on day 1. So all the angels were created on day 1. I forgot to mention that as well. Maybe I mentioned it when we talked about earth, but they're actually in the different firmaments, heavens. And so we get this information from Apocalypse of Abraham 26, Testament of Levi 3:5. So the seventh firmament, also created in day 1, is the tabernacle of Yahuwah and his only begotten son, Yahusha. And that existed before creation because they both were there while the 6 days of creation were going on. This is Apocalypse of Abraham 25. But there are the fiery angels who carry out the commands of Yahuwah, which also came on day 1 in Testament of Levi 3:4. So you can see a hierarchy here. When you go from the seventh firmament on down to basically the fourth firmament, There's different hierarchies of angels in what they do and what their responsibilities are. The seven archangels are obviously the fire angels in the seventh firmament. So that's an overall broad brush. But again, all these references will lead you to see what's going on with the visions that Abraham, Levi, and Enoch had. So I looked in Job 37:18. Job had gone through testing by Yahuwah. He allowed Satan to do a lot of terrible things. And Job gets to a point where he says, I wish I wasn't born. And actually, I said it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault for what happened. And of course, God gets angry with him, upset with him. And through Elihu, he gets the Spirit of the Lord coming through him. And so I had these captured for each one to kind of talk about and see how the firmament's addressed here. Can you, like you, spread out the skies to reflect the heat like a mirror of bronze? So he's being facetious, right? Because obviously nobody was there. Only you and his son were there when creation occurred. And then the different versions. Perhaps you have made the heavens with Yahuwah, which are very solid, as if they had been cast from brass. You hear all these characteristics of the firmament. Thou perhaps made the heavens with Yahuwah, which are most strong, as if they were molten brass. Can you stretch out the skies? See, now skies is heavens, firmament, same thing. Multiple. With Yahuwah and make them as firm as a mirror made of metal? Hast thou with Yahuwah spread out the sky, which is strong, as a molten looking glass? We've heard that before. Wilt thou establish Yahuwah foundations for the ancient heavens? They are strong as a molten mirror. Can you with Yahuwah spread out the firmament of the skies, hard as a molten mirror? So we see this constant. There's multiple firmaments. We're getting description of a mirror that's molten, and all these characteristics.
And this is a molten type of looking glass. When you hear the term molten looking glass, it's for looking because it magnifies something. We've talked about that before, and you can see this magnifies. Like my hand is like massive, like
right.
with a looking glass. That's what they used them for. They knew how to make lenses back then to magnify things. This is not a new creation. They were far more advanced than we think. For someone like Job way back then to understand, okay, a looking glass, I know what that is. They were using things like that, and we're told, microscopes weren't invented until recent times, but I think they had technology far beyond what we could imagine.
Yeah. So I'll switch to the next one. So again, this is all about biblical cosmology, building up what is it, and we need to have a common understanding of it. So detailed scriptures references prove the sun and moon are located in the second firmament. So I'm going to walk through that. Testament of Levi 2:8. And I further saw a second heaven, far brighter and more brilliant, for there was a boundless light also therein. Pretty much sounds like the sun. And now I want to use First Enoch because I won't read the whole thing, but this is part of it. My key is where I bolded it and underlined it, because it says that the moon and the sun are in size. They're equal in size. So in order for them to be equal in size, for us to see it equal in size, they need to be close to each other. They can't be in one firmament or the other. And I used two scripture references in Enoch. First one was 72:35-37. The second one is Enoch 78:1-3. Again, these are the two greater lights. Their discs are like the discs of heaven, and in size the two are equal. Tells us they need to be close to each other. So Revelation 12:1, and a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. The woman described as Mother Jerusalem and as paradise, or New Jerusalem, kingdom of Yahuwah, located in the third heaven and firmament. Here's Bible verses for that. Testimony of Levi 2:8 states the sun is located in the second heaven firmament. We just read that up top. Revelation 12:1 states the moon is located in the second heaven/firmament, which means that's where the sun's got to be. First Enoch states the sun and the moon are equal in size, which tells us they're in close proximity. proximity to each other in the second firmament. So it kind of points to where they're located. Um, so I'll say that statement right now. The sun and moon are located in the second firmament. Since paradise / New Jerusalem is located in the third heaven / firmament and is clothed in the sun, which is located in the second firmament / heaven, the sun shines down through the second and first firmaments on the earth we live in, and the sun shines light up through the third firmament to clothe paradise, New Jerusalem, in the sun's light. Okay?
Wow.
So we need to think about this. You as creation of the seven firmaments above, and how the sun and moon located in the second firmament function could be wonderfully and masterfully designed by him to provide light within all seven firmaments, which is beyond mankind's comprehension, right? I'm going to say, that's wrong. It should say how. How foolish are we to believe the sun and moon provide light only below the first firmament we live in and not in all the other firmaments, right? Because if they're all doing the same thing, if they're all firmaments are made of the same thing, he could have created these things to be lined up or to broadcast that light in every area of these firmaments for his angels to enjoy. We just don't know.
Yeah, and Jubilees talks about him keeping Sabbath with us, that it's
Right.
something he set apart. It's not like he has a different sky clock, that he's looking at, that it sounds like he's using the same clock that we use
Yes.
above our heads, but it's like
Exactly
looking
right.
down at it.
Yeah, just think of the circular level plane Earth that we live in. Just it's a wider diameter. We have no idea how wide it goes. It's still
Yeah.
a clock. It's still a clock. We're all on the same day and time. All the different realms are all when the sun goes around and it's lighting their areas up too, and the moon's doing it as well. We're all on the same time. So you may have created all the firmaments to mirror and reflect the sun's and moon's light, which could provide similar light, on the land and water areas on the earth within each firmament. It's very something to think about. We don't know, but why would, we have to not limit ourselves and think, wow, we're the only ones that have the sun and the moon. So when we try to model the sun and the moon, Proverbs 25:3 and Jeremiah 31:7, any modeling of the sun and moon with them located in the first firmament is incorrect because they are in the second firmament. In addition, the physical characteristics of the first firmament structure is not accessible and therefore unknown. We don't know the curvature of it. We're not allowed to. Proverbs 25:3 and Jeremiah 31:37. Modeling of the sun and moon in the second firmament is impossible because the physical characteristics of the first and second firmament structures are not accessible and therefore unknown. But again, I'm going to go back to this quite a few times. Mankind has been observing the movements of the sun and moon above the earth for thousands of years. Based on these observations, navigational data, which is the azimuth angle and altitude angle of the sun or moon, are provided for any location on the earth at any minute of any day of any month of any year. We have that data, and I'm using it now and understanding it more and more. So I want to talk about the United States Naval Observatory navigational data. Like I said, mankind has been observing the movements of the sun and moon above the earth for thousands of years. Based on these observations, the Naval Observatory navigational data is the only trusted source of data available to determine the location of the sun or of the moon, altitude angle or the sun or moon, and azimuth angle of the sun or moon at any location on the earth at any minute of any day of any month of any year. This is the key here. Any models, apps, or programs developed must use the Naval Observatory's navigational data of the sun and moon in order for the model, app, or program to be correct and trustworthy. In other words, the Naval Observatory navigational data is the model or data to know the locations and movements of the sun and moon above the earth at any minute of any day of any month of any year. That's pretty much what I've come to with a year and a half of me trying to understand navigation and how it works on the level earth. And it's making more and more sense. So here's something, previous presentation with you, Josh. I had shown on the left, I had shown this, and again, this is the winter solstice. And originally, I thought this was impossible to do, that it wouldn't be 24-hour sunlight, but I discounted the firmament. Now I know that the firmament's there. I knew it was there before. I just didn't know how magnificent it is, or firmaments are, because it could be coming down directly where we see the sun rotating around, wherever it tracks from tropic to tropic. That could be where it's coming down straight through below, and then we see on the second firmament it's bouncing off the third firmament down, or the second firmament, excuse me, down for the outer areas, for the southern areas. I don't know, just don't know. But when you look at this, and then the firmament trackers, they've got a really good app coming out, and I think they actually use the navigational data for how they show their modeling, because it pretty much shows the same thing that I did using navigational data and just plotting it out based on latitude and longitude and creating it myself. You look at that. I mean, you see the sun disk on the app is right above, looks like it's right above the Tropic of Capricorn, which I also show on mine on the left on the Gleason's map. And then you see the nighttime area, which is opposite of the sun, where I show that too. And then it shows pretty much sunlight in all the other areas except for it's nighttime, just like I do. So they're using the navigational data to show what they're showing on their app. That's what they're doing. If it doesn't agree with the navigational data, it's going to be wrong. So that's what we've been observing for a long, long time. But I'm going to try to get that app. I think once it's available for an Apple iPhone, they got to think it's available for Google now, but not for Apple yet. So our home is within this part of the circular level plane Earth, enclosed by the first firmament. So now we're going to get to things. What do we know? What things do we know? Because we live in this realm of the first firmament, below the first firmament. We know that the diameter of the circular level plane Earth is 24,856 miles in diameter, which is also 360 degrees of latitude. You can look at either side here. I'm going to look at numbers again. 360 degrees of latitude with 1 degree of latitude equaling 69 miles per latitude equates to 24,856 miles in diameter, which also happens to be the circumference of the illusionary globe Earth. They just took a straight line and curved it. Okay, so we know that. We know that's the realm we live underneath the first firmament. So this can I is there a way for me to zoom in on this, Josh?
You probably would have to have it pulled up like on your computer and zoom in on it somehow with sharing it that way. I don't know how to do it from here.
Okay, I could do that.
Maybe if you hit like share screen, if you have the presentation pulled up, and if what do you do your presentations in? Is it PowerPoint?
I do them in PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay. It might let you zoom in on PowerPoint if you like share your screen, like when you hit present.
All right.
Share. It may let you share a certain window.
Right.
If you hit window, or just your entire screen, you can full screen it possibly.
Let's see, I got to get to this, and then I'm going to open up the same thing. All right, so let me go to. Did you let me share?
Then people can see your cursor if you hit present, share screen, and you're sharing like your entire screen. If you can pull it up, or you can just share a tab or a window as well, and it might let you share your PowerPoint there.
Let's see. Where is it at?
Oh, look, we got Kelly here. Good to see you, brother.
Where did it go? Okay. I'm trying to pull it up. Here we go. Do you see it now? Oh, that's a PDF.
Not yet.
Okay. Let me get back where'd you go? There you are. Okay. Okay, I see it now.
Bear with us, folks. We are pulling up the presentation in a different way so he can zoom in, because the things he makes on AutoCAD, really tiny font. Hard to see unless you can zoom in. And hopefully this way you can see where his cursor is. He can point you in the right direction where he's talking about things.
Yeah, I'm trying
That make
to.
it a little easier.
Why is it doing that? Let's see if I
We got
do.
Bill Shoot, one of my
Okay.
favorite brothers in the house. Had the pleasure of meeting him twice in person. Actually, kind of like almost 3 times. We crossed paths twice when we were at Flattover Fest a few years ago. Really cool, almost like divine guidance there where our paths crossed. And then we were on vacation this summer and found out he was like right down the road from us. It's pretty cool. Go
Okay.
on
Are
an
you seeing
adventure.
that? Are you seeing that?
All I'm seeing is that one. If you hit, did you hit present and then share screen and try to
Let's see. I'm trying to
share it
get
that
you.
way and try? You can do a window or the entire screen. At least on my end, it may be different on your end. Screen sharing was canceled. Make sure click on share on the modal. It's giving me some prompt. I'm trying to see what it says, but it went away. As soon as I was reading it, it disappeared.
Because it looks like I've got it there. I can see it. My
Oh, you
screen.
see it on your end?
Yeah.
Hmm. Let me see. I don't know why I'm not seeing anything on my end, but it did give me a little prompt. Then it went away.
Okay. So I'm trying to see. Oh, do you see that? I've got a lot of stuff on the screen. Do you see that?
No, it's not letting me see it, and I can't
Okay. All
figure
right.
out
We'll just go back
why.
to the. Let me. Do I need to be? I'm not logged in or anything because I don't really have an account yet. I need to
Hmm.
create an
I don't
account.
know. That might be a reason. But when it lets you hit share screen, right? And then when you hit entire screen, does it give you that option?
It does. Um, entire screen. Then it doesn't highlight the share at the bottom though. It's like not like I.
Oh, okay. Huh. That's strange.
All right. Well, guess what? I mean, we can still go through. It's just they're not
Yeah.
going to be able to see the details of it.
I wish there was a way to zoom in.
Yeah. Okay. Let me.
Sorry, guys.
So let me get back to. All right. Um, okay. So
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
this is. Let me go back now. But you see that now, right, Josh? The top
Yeah.
view. Okay. So it's hard to read. I mean, I was hoping I could zoom in on it. But what I've done here is just create a top view down, like if you're looking above, and you can see those rings. There's like the shorter rings that go from the outside going in, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the firmaments, okay, that actually come down. Each firmament's above each other, and it actually is supported. The foundation is the earth. The earth is much larger than what we live on. And then you have the other ring, the bigger one, that is where we live, and that's our circular level plane earth. But so let me go to the next one. It just kind of gives an idea and explains all the different things that are going on in each firmament area there. Um, and this, I've got another bigger size for this, but this is like a cross section view where you see, and the different firmament levels are all basically sitting on top of the foundation of the earth. Again, the earth, land, land and water area of the earth where we're at extends out continually for who knows how long. We don't know. But just trying to give a better depiction of that, of what's going on with all the Bible verses. But you can see we don't even know how thick these other firmaments are. Between after the first one we are in, the other ones, who knows how big they are? They could be so large we have no idea at all.
All right.
Now this one, you can see a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this one I zoomed in because I wanted to purposely talk about this. So if you see North Center there, and so it says Earth, land, and waters. This is our realm. This is where the circular level plane Earth is. And you see it's got the equator to the right and to the left, and then you go to the right and the left, you see Antarctica. south perimeter edge on either side. So this is to scale, by the way, as far as what I know and what we live in. So that distance from left to right of the Antarctic south perimeter edge is 24,856 miles. Okay. Now, and then also based on the navigational data, I always tell people the sun is always at its perspective is always at 3,107 miles above sea level, and the moon is at 3,062 miles above sea level, or 45 miles below the sun. That's always its perspective when you do double triangulation. So you can see in the second firmament, those little dots. There's little dots. You can see the sun is 30 miles in diameter, 3,107 miles above sea level. And where you see them on either side of the center, that's the sun's where it goes farthest south, Tropic of Capricorn, farthest north, Tropic of Cancer, on either side of center north. The moon is below it, 45 miles. You see, there's the same size. Those little dots are 30 miles in diameter because it's basically to scale with the Earth, which is 24,856 miles in diameter. And you can see that the moon actually traverses farther south and north during its lunar cycles on either, and so it's very interesting. I just want to give a perspective. That's if they're in the second firmament, they're somewhere in there. I don't know exactly where because I don't know where the second firmament starts or stops, and we don't really know where the first firmament, and that's what I want to focus in on. So, and you and I, Justin, talked about this. We always ask, well, how high is our firmament? And we kind of play around. We say, well, we know that NASA tells us the Kármán line is 62 miles. It's an invisible barrier, but that's what they use for going from basically our sky to space. So 62 miles. Sometimes I'm thinking, we don't know. We just don't know because we're not allowed to. But just to give you an idea, see that red line in the middle, center north there? The top of that firmament layer right there is 500 miles to scale. And so my question is, well, we don't know. The firmament height, is it 100 to 500 miles? We just don't know. And then if you go all the way to the right over here, where I say firmament height of 3 to 54 miles, that arrow is basically 690 miles north of the Antarctic south perimeter, which again, now we have to consider we remember that 1958 American Encyclopedia had a statement in there that a pilot saw the firmament at 80 degrees south latitude at 13,000 miles of elevation. So when I have it coming there to touch the Earth, it's 54 miles. My point is, look at how narrow this thing is. It's not like a dome that we would think that we see some of the models where it's more curved very much more. So if we even say that we try to put the sun in the first firmament, which we know is wrong, we're going to have some issues with it trying to shine down through to cause that mirroring to occur at the equator. And so I'm just saying that we don't know. It's like, that's all we know. We just know that the Earth is 24,856 miles in diameter. We don't know how high the firmament or how it's curved. We do know, I'm hoping more people will get into the navigational data, that the perspective elevation of the sun and the moon are as they're shown here. Those things are to scale. So that's what I'm getting at is, if we're going to talk about biblical cosmology and to understand the creation of the heavens and the earth, we really need to get a group of trusted believers in you and his son Yahushua who truly understand Yahuwah's creation of the heavens and the earth, and need to come together to agree upon one biblical cosmology. We kind of look foolish if we don't, because we can't really talk to the heliocentric cosmologists because they all agree on one exact same cosmology. And, that's what they do all the time. So the point is that those scriptures that we went through gives us a framework for how you have created the heavens and the earth. We don't know all the details of it, but we get a general idea. Okay. And that's my point. There are many people in the biblical cosmology community who say they believe in biblical cosmology, but have different concepts or ideas what the cosmology looks like, which should not be. Their concepts or ideas of biblical cosmology consist of anywhere between one firmament, heaven/heaven, to three firmaments slash heavens to seven firmaments slash heaven. There needs to be one agreed upon biblical cosmology. And so I just thought, like, what about, a biblical cosmology group that wanted to come together and agree upon? I mean, there are already guys out there in Kingdom Crew. Ken Heidelberg, I would recommend people going to his playlist. He talks about the creation of the heavens and the earth. He pulls out the same scripture references a lot more than I did here, but he pulls tons of them out that references what I do. His cosmology is pretty much what he thinks it is. I agree with that because I can see where things line up like he does. Wes Blaze, he's got a pretty good layout too, but the one thing, he's got the sun and the moon in the third firmament, and so there's some issues there. Would like to understand, but it'd be cool to get everybody together to agree upon one, so we have one reference point, one place where we can say this is what we believe in. And if somebody goes, I believe in biblical cosmology too, well, what do you believe? And then find out what they think, because although they're believers, they might not have the same cosmology idea. So we kind of like, well, what do you think about this? And so it's more like a teaching thing that needs to happen. I mean, there's only one cosmology that you did. There's only one, But now I'm going to switch. Again, the equator perfectly mirrors sunlight coverage on the same latitude lines, locations north and south of the equator. This is what kept popping on, hitting me, looking through the data, and I kept thinking, this isn't right. This is fake. But now it is true. It is true. This happens south of the equator to all inhabitants there, so that they get the same sunlight coverage that those in the north, living north of the equator or north of the sun, do. The sun will always rotate around whatever observation point you're at, and that's how the Father does it, is through the firmaments. So going back now, we talked about this, Josh, and at first I thought this was not right because it didn't follow what the Gleason's map was showing for sunlight coverage. But now it is right because we get 12 hours of sunlight at all locations. So what I did now is, this is the true sunlight coverage, and it's also due because it's doing it with the firmaments. It's lighting up this farther area around half the circular level plane Earth. So we're going to show that now, and this was in one of my videos I did, looking at sunlight coverage on the spring equinox. Okay, so this is the illusionary globe Earth, because obviously it does the same thing. On the right side, we've got a North Pole view. We're looking down on the illusionary globe Earth down. So half of that side is covered in light, and then we look up from the South Pole side, we see the other half. So it's showing us that one half of the illusionary globe is lit. Now, what I did here is I got to pull the data straight from the navigational data from the Naval Observatory. This is March 20th, spring equinox, and I did a location. The sun is located at 0 degrees latitude, right on the equator. What I did is now I looked at 30 degrees latitude north of the equator at 105 degrees longitude. And I kept the same longitude on the right side, but at minus 30 degrees latitude. So I went 30 degrees north and south on the same longitude line to start getting the data. And so and I did it for every hour increment, solar hour increment, like 15, 30, that way. And you can see basically the azimuth angles tells us how we're doing with the angles for time. These are always going to be 15 degrees difference going through the solar hour of 24 hours. But if you look at the altitude angles, they look pretty close. I mean, they end up being like a mirror when you put it on the map. And so you can see that The altitude angles are the same, like when it's high noon, which is hour 6 for both of them, you see that the altitude angle is 60 degrees, 60 degrees. Now, this elevation, sun in miles, again, that's a perspective. It's related to the relationship of the altitude angle, the altitude angles provided versus 90 degrees. 90 degrees, at 90 degrees, the sun is at 3,107 miles in elevation. At 0 degrees, the sun's perspective is 0 elevation because it's at the horizon. That's just how it works on you, is design, perfect design. If it's 45 degrees angle, it's going to be half of the elevation, which is 3,000, half of 3,107. So that's how all these elevation in miles, these are perspective, are determined. And I've got that shown in that note 3. It's a simple calculation. So we can see the perspective. So now we're going to take this data and see if I can't blow it up. But this, now we're looking straight down. You can see the inner circle there, partial circle, is 30 degrees latitude, and it's at 105 longitude. So it's 30 degrees. The point that we're looking at is 30 degrees latitude north of the equator. And then we see now, this is the actual points of where the sun's traveling from east to west, from left to right for a 12-hour period, all the way across. Okay. And what I have on there, the AZ is the basically the azimuth angle, and the AA is the altitude angle. So you can see when we get to 180 degrees azimuth, which is true south, we're looking true south. That's the highest, the sun will be at its highest elevation, and that's 60 degrees altitude angle right there. And then it pretty well goes around. You can almost notice too that it's symmetrical from hour to hour. 11 o'clock altitude angle is the same as 1 o'clock or 13 hour set. Hour 5 altitude angle is the same as hour 7. It mirrors even, from solar noon left to right. But that's the plot for the sun movement and how it's seen north, 30 degrees latitude north at 105 longitude. Now, I took the same data for the 30 degrees south, and again, now if you're looking from the south, you're looking from the east. The east is to the right of you instead of the left, but it's the same progression, okay? And you can see that true north, which is going to be 0 degrees azimuth or 360 degrees, is altitude angle is 60, and then when we go right or left of it, they're pretty much the same. So we're seeing the mirror going on right there. And so if you look at where the sun's actually going on the equator line, right? But then you actually see an apparent sun on hour 24 through hour 4, which is following the same that the 30 degrees north people see. And then so you see the true sun on hour 6, which is the high noon. But then after that, hour 7, it's an apparent sun going around. So now we'll put them together. And you'll see that the equator mirror line is there, and that's caused by the crystalline firmament above. Perfectly mirrored. So the person viewing this on the 30 degrees north longitude, they're seeing the actual sun rotating around because it's on the equator. That's where the sun actually is. As far as it's where it's right directly above on the circular level plane Earth. And it's going from east to west, left to right. Now, when you look from south, you're looking north, and so you're going east to west from right to left. We see the same progression, but like again said, you're seeing the same thing that the people from 30 degrees north do, but now it's an apparent sun from hour 24 to 5. You see the real sun on hour 6 because it's on the equator line, and then you see an apparent sun hour 7 through 12. It's just magnificent what you has done. It's so amazing. Wow. So let's look at this. So now, like I said, the reason I do the apparent altitude, I can now just do this and say, because these altitudes are relative to each other, okay? based on the perspective of elevation. So the top trajectory is of 30 degrees north latitude. So, there is east is hour 24. It's coming up above the horizon because it's getting closer. Then hour 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the highest it's going to be. That's a 60 degrees altitude angle, and it's going back down to the west. So it goes east to west from left to right. Now we're looking at the 30 degrees south. The sun still travels east to west, but from right to left, which when they're looking at it, it's actually going counterclockwise from their perspective. Okay. Goes clockwise for our perspective. The sun and the moon always go clockwise. But whenever you see the apparent sun or moon south, it's circling counterclockwise. But again, look at the perfect mirroring of this. So they get to see the same thing we do. But again, hours 1 through 5 is the apparent sun, and 7 through let me say this: hours 1 through 5 they see the apparent sun, and 7 through 11 they see apparent sun on the south side. If they don't, they get the same thing. This one, we did this one as well when we talked about how the mirroring occurs perfectly. June 20th with the sunlight data at plus 23.44 latitude for the summer solstice is perfectly mirrored December 20th at minus 23.44 latitude at the same longitude line. And before we thought, this can't be right. But now it makes total sense. This is what I showed before. Summer solstice, June 20th, 2024. This is the sunlight coverage, and I've added this 24-hour sunlight in the middle there because that's what happens. You have perfectly designed it to have that 24-hour sunlight for that same area, north center to plus 90 degrees latitude out to plus 66.56. Okay. And again, this is the illusionary globe. It does the same thing, because it has the same latitude and longitude coordinates. It's just a smaller illusionary geometry of a sphere. So this is the North Pole side. You see the 24-hour sunlight, and the South Pole side, where again it's showing, half of the spherical Earth being lit. Now this is the December 24th, where it's the summer solstice. This is what I thought was wrong, but now I realize it's not. It's exactly the same. We get the same 24-hour coverage. You did this through the mirroring by the firmaments. You have 24-hour sunlight at minus 66.56 latitude to minus 90 degree latitude. Now we're going to get into where a lot of the major stumbling block for all of us that believed in a circular level plane Earth or a flat Earth. We all kept looking at this December solstice. I kept saying this has got to be true, and it tells you it's actually totally wrong. It shows the sunlight only in this area here, and everything else around it is not covered in 24-hour sunlight. And so this is wrong. And that's a stumbling block. It's surprising that that's on Gleason's map, but we have to figure truth out ourselves. And now we know that that's not true. That part of the Gleason's map is not true. So the navigational data of sunlight in the Antarctica during its summer months shows 24-hour sunlight. We've already seen that. Therefore, the Gleason's map graphic and description of sunlight coverage during this December solstice is not correct. And basically, the Gleason's map doesn't recognize the perfect mirroring of the sunlight at the equator caused by the crystalline firmaments. And this also showing that's why it works on the illusionary spherical Earth, because it's mimicking the same data. The data is the same for both the circular level plane Earth and the illusionary globe. It works on both. Okay. Now we're going to get into more detail. I know this is probably hard to see, but what I've done here is I'm going to now use the June 20th data for plus 23.4 latitude, sun's navigational data at plus 80 degrees latitude. So I'm now going to be located within 24-hour sun. I've gone far enough north for the summer solstice, and I've got the data there. Again, 24 hours. This comes directly from the navigational data of the Naval Observatory. I did the same thing for December 21st. The sun's at minus 23.4, but now I'm down at minus 80 degrees latitude, and I got all the data there. Okay, we don't need to go delve into that, but you can see if you look at the altitude angles column on both the summer solstice side and the December solstice. They are pretty much
Wow, it's a mirror.
same. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. Okay, so now I'm going to lay that out. And again, this, I wish I could blow it up, but that little circle in the middle there, well, first of all, the dot that says center north, that's plus 90 degrees. And then the circle that's around it, that's plus 80 degrees. So now I'm plotting out the track because I know that the sun is at plus 23.4 latitude. That's what that circle is there. And I've also shown the outer circle is the equator. So everything here is to scale. This is coming right off of AutoCAD, plotted out. Everything is perfect, perfectly scaled. And so you can see, let me try to get where, okay, so let me go where hour one is over here on the left side at azimuth 15, okay? And you can see, if you look at the altitude angles, it's 13.9. Actually, let's go where it says 24. That would be basically farthest away because we're farthest away, but we're still getting sunlight at 13.5 degrees altitude. So when you look at the altitude all around here, it goes from 13.5 at hour 24, and it keeps creeping up. When we go around each hour, going up, and we were at 90 degrees azimuth straight up from our location there at plus 80 degrees. We were at 23.8 degrees altitude angle. And then we go to hour 12, which would be high noon, we're at 33.5. Okay. So we see there's 24-hour sunlight going on there. The sun never goes below the horizon. The lowest it goes is 13.5 altitude degrees. And this is what it does when we look at it for the trajectory. Again, this is all relative to the actual elevation. The sun is low because we're pretty far, still pretty far north at 80 degrees. So the sun travels east to west from left to right. And here we see hour one, and it gets up hour 6. It's going higher. At hour 12 is its high noon, and then it mirrors going down to hour 18 west is similar to the same height as hour 6, and then 24 is still above the horizon. Okay, so we see 24-hour sunlight in that area. So I just went back to the table now. So we're going to now do the same thing we just did for the summer solstice to the winter solstice. And now our circle is going to get a lot bigger, so it might be harder to see. And it is. So now what I've done is you can see the center north, the equator. You see the equator, 0 degrees latitude, and then farther out where I've got the sun on minus 23.4 latitude, and it's going around the 24 hours. This is the data that the navigational data shows, okay? It's hard to see, but if you look at hour 24, which is the farthest to the right, it's a straight line, farthest to the right, it still has an altitude angle of 13.5. Exact same, and it's got same altitude angle, 33.5 of the high noon, just like it did when it was the summer solstice. So this trajectory here, the sun's, how we see the sun out at minus 80 degrees latitude, which is that point there, the big dark point with all the hour lines going around. That shows the same data that we see north. So now what happens if we put them together? Well, first I want to show this. It's the same mirrored view of the sun like we said in north in the summer solstice at plus 80. It's the same, but now we're going from basically right to left because we're looking north. So hours 1 to 6, east, and it's the same trajectory. Hour 12, it's at the same altitude angle as it was for summer solstice, the highest, and it goes down to hour 24, and we see 24-hour sun. So we're seeing it. So now we do the mirror line here, and it's exactly the same mirrored circle caused by the crystalline firmament above. Just take that line, mirror what we saw for the sunlight coverage on the summer solstice, exactly the same for the winter solstice. Perfect. Another beautiful evidence of the firmaments. And I just compared them again. Here they are. The top one, we're looking at the summer solstice at plus 80 degrees latitude. The sun is at plus 23.4 latitude. And we go from east to west, from left to right to view the travel of the sun, always above the horizon. And then on December 21st, at minus 80 latitude, where the sun's at minus 23.4 latitude, we're looking from right to left, exact same trajectory. Beautiful, perfect. His design is perfect. Yahuwah's design is perfect. So this one's going to get. I did the same thing now. I thought, well, This means that anybody on minus 80 degree latitude, whatever longitude, every degree of longitude as you go around is seeing the same thing. Let me go back because I need to explain that more here too. So again, when you're at plus 80 for the summer solstice, the people are actually seeing the true sun all the way around for 24 hours. When you're at minus 80 degrees at winter solstice, the only time you see the true sun is when it's at high noon. The other times, and you can see the hours is going counterclockwise. It goes from 1 to 12 to 24 counterclockwise. The other times they see it's an apparent sun all the way around them. How magnificent is that for the Father to do that? How magnificent. But now I'm going to plot it because it's happening at every longitude line as you go around, every second of every minute, for all the different locations. And that's something amazing to think about that you did too. So what I did is I made the sun coverage every 60 degrees longitude for every 4 hours. Okay. And it's got the same data. So that's what you see there. Okay. It's it's doing that as the sun moves around. The parent sun's moving around for their perspective, and only when it's their high noon is when they see the true sun. And I'm going to kind of go through this real quick. Again, this is like hour 1, and you can see how it changes. So the sun, you can see the true sun there on minus 23.4 latitude, and you'll see how the other places of their longitude lines are seeing the sun, how it moves around. That's hour 2. Hour 3. Sun's going clockwise, but all the other locations it's going counterclockwise, the apparent sun. Hour 4 is noontime for plus 120 longitude. You can see it up there in the corner. Then we'll go to hour 5. Hour 6. The hour I'm mentioning is the sun, not is the sun's actual time. The other hours are different based on their longitude location. Hour 7. Hour 8 now is plus 60 degree longitudes, high noon. You can see it there because it's high noon for them. Hour 9, hour 10, hour 11. Hour 12 is high noon for longitude 0. Hour 13, hour 14, hour 15, hour 16 is high noon for minus 60 degrees longitude. 17 hour, 18, 19, 20. Hour 20 is high noon for minus 120 degrees longitude. And then we'll come around to 21, 22, 23, 24. And that's when longitude plus minus 180 has their high noon. So that's how it works for all the different locations. It's amazing when you think of all that going on at the same time. It's it's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
again, yeah, I mean, it's right there now. Again, this is the illusionary south pole of the globe Earth. I have to show this, so it has the exact same, uh, you know, view that we saw on the circular level plane Earth, the level Earth, and it has that same um, going from this. This is going from right to left because we're down at the South Pole. So this sun is going. The sun is actually going counterclockwise down here. I just wanted to make that point that it works on their illusionary Earth too. Now this is the first time I've done it for the moon. We're going to do the same thing because if it works for the sun, it works for the moon. It works for probably the stars too. That'd be tough for me to figure that one out because they're hard to track.
Yeah,
But
and I find it crazy that I couldn't find 24-hour moon footage anywhere. Like, it should be when there's darkness for 6 months at a certain place, they should be seeing the moon because the moon
well,
where we are.
you just challenged me because I think it
Yeah,
can happen. I just got to get to a point where the moon is down because the moon does go down to minus 28 degrees latitude, and if it does that, I very well could map. You get the data to see what's going on. Minus 80 degrees latitude and see what happens with the moon data. I can do that. I can find
yeah.
it out. Very simple. It's easy now.
I just think that'd be so cool to witness a 24-hour moon going
Yeah, that would
around.
be.
Yeah,
That
I've
would be.
never seen it though. Like, to me, that just seems like it would be spectacular, and
Right.
never seen it.
So
Wow.
this took me a while to figure out, but I did. I had to find out where because the moon is sporadic. It moves so much quicker north and south. I mean, just in one lunar cycle, which is 29 or 30 days, that the moon travels plus and minus 28 degrees latitude within those 29 or 30 days. I mean, the sun only goes, you know, uh, for a full year, it only goes a total of 56, about, let's see, it'd be 23, 23, about 80 some degrees of latitude for the whole year. But the moon does that like 40 within 29 days or 30. It's crazy how fast it moves back and forth. But I had to find the dates where the moon was pretty much running the same latitude line, north or south, which I did. It was pretty close. That was January 11th, 2020. Then this is for this year, January 11th, 2025, at plus 45 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude. And then at July 8th, at minus 45 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude. So you can see and I did this because it was easy for me just to do basically, I think it's 3-hour increments. Yeah, I did 3-hour increments, 45 degrees longitudes. Once I got the track, I need to know the track because the track of the moon isn't perfectly circular. It moves within that one day. So I had to find the track. And that's what I'm doing here. So I got the track here for January 11th and then for July 8th. Okay. So this is the track, moon's track for January 11th. And you can see center north in the middle, minus 90 degrees latitude. Way out is Antarctica south perimeter. We've got the equator in the middle there at 0 degrees latitude. And then this is where I was able to create the track with these data points for the moon. Okay. And it tells you that hour 1, it's at plus 27.25 latitude. And by hour 22, it's at plus 28.45. So it keeps moving quite a bit, okay, latitude wise. But this gives me like the track to use when now I want to do an observation point. Okay, so now I know where the moon's track is. Then I got the data. I pulled the navigational data for plus 45 latitude location and 0 longitude. That's my observation point for January 11th. And I got it also for July 8th at minus 45. So I got it I've got it set up to see how the mirroring goes. Okay, so now January 11th and July 8th, I got the 12 hours or 24 hours of what's going on with the moon. Okay, and again, this information is just what I pulled off of navigational data. Don't get confused. But then I did the elevation of the moon in miles. I do the same thing based on the altitude angle. The perspective of the moon's elevation, because the moon is 3,062 miles above its perspective above sea level. And so if it was 90 degrees straight up, then that means it's at 3,062 miles. But any portion of that altitude angle would be the ratio of it. So that's all these altitude angles tell me is what the elevation of the moon is in perspective. So I can show how it tracks when we see it, going from different locations. So this is the January 11th, the moon's trajectory, looking at it from plus 45 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude. So I put that plus 45 degrees latitude circle in there, and then you can see the moon track, which I already know now. And so from my vantage point, now I see, this is interesting because, a lot of times you'll see the moon early in the morning, it's going down, right? So if you look, you see that hour one that's there, that tells you that it's ready to go down because it's going to go below the horizon or just circle too far away. With hour 2, it's getting lower. Hour 3, it's going low. Hour 4, now after hour 4, it's not seen above the horizon until hour 12. It's coming back up. See, because you can see we're getting a mirror again here where we're looking at the longitude line is 0, 0. And you can see every hour we're getting a mirror. In hour 12 mirrors hour 4, hour 13 mirrors hour 3, and back around. So now I'm seeing the trajectory of it. And can I go back? Let's see. Let me just show you, because one thing I didn't show was, here we go. Okay. So look at January 11th, look at hour 20, and the azimuth angle is 180 degrees. That means it's high moon. It's high moon. That's when the moon's highest altitude angle. And we see it is. It's 73.1. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. And if we look at hour 13 for July 8th, that is high moon as well. And it's got the same 73.1 degree altitude angle. So we're already seeing there's a mirroring going on here on the table. But this now is January 11th. So now this is a plot for looking at the trajectory of the moon based on relative elevation through the time. And we're going from left to right, believe it or not, because hour 1, the moon's basically traveling far away, which is early in the morning. It's like 1300 in the morning. Hour 2, it's west. So 3 and 4, it's going down, and it doesn't come back up and around because it's not going. It's staying the same elevation as it circles around. It's just we're able to see it again in hour 12, and it's coming up and it's going east because it's going east, and it goes to the north where it's hour 20 is its high moon, and goes down to hour 23 because now we're running out of that day. The next day would pick up. You'd see it going down like we did this day. Okay. So now I have to show thanks guys. Love it. July 8th. Now I've got to track that. Okay. So that's what this tracking is. I got to track the moon where it's actually going. So I do that again. And this is what it shows. Now we're going farther out because I tried to get the moon tracking to be mirrored outside the equator as I did inside the equator before. Okay, so now I've got the data points there. That tells me where the moon's actually moving around. And now I'm going to use this July 8th data to see how the observer tracks it. So here we are. We're again at 0 degrees longitude, but now we're at minus 45 degrees latitude. We're mirroring plus 45 degree latitude. we see the same thing. But let's now look. It's going counterclockwise because it's being mirrored. Hour one now is going counterclockwise. Hour two, hour three, hour four. Now it's below the horizon. Can't see it. We're coming around. Starts to come up on hour 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So it's mirroring the same thing that we saw at plus 45 longitude. The exact same elevation that we see, perspective of it, but it's traveling east to west from right to left. So now we're going from the right, and we're seeing hour one to the right. It's going down below the horizon. Hour 12, it pops back up. Hour 14 is east. Hour 20 is looking fully north, and then it goes over. So now we'll look. We compare them both. I put them together. You can see it's exact same trajectory with same perspective elevations. Just one's looking east to west from left to right. The other one's looking east to west from right to left, from south. And I got to go back again. So what happened? What this means here is you can see the moon's on its own track. That's the true moon. So the only time that they see the true moon here at minus 45 degrees latitude is when it's high moon. After that, it's the apparent moon all the way around. It's doing it again. The firmament's doing it again. So here we put them together. This is how I put them together, and you can see the full mirroring of it. It's just perfect again. It's the firmament does this at the equator line, and it's perfectly designed by you. It's just amazing. It really is.
Wow.
Now, you think we've had enough, or you want to keep going?
I don't. Let me see. We're on slide 81. 100. It's up to you.
Well, this is the new stuff that I mentioned to you about. Actually, it's coming a little bit later, but I've shown this before. And it's basically, U is perfect, intentional, intelligent design of the circular level plane Earth and the sun at high noon. It's perfect. I talk about this all the time, that the size of the diameter of the Earth and the height of the sun and the diameter of the sun work perfectly for navigation on the level plane Earth. And my point is, whenever you see a latitude line at plus 5 degrees latitude, well, let me put it this way: if you have an altitude angle of 85 degrees to the sun, it'll always be 5 degrees latitude away from the sun. That's just because of 85 plus 5 equals 90 degrees. It always works out, because if you're straight above it, there's no altitude angle. It's zero. If you're at plus 90 degrees center north and it's on the equator, the altitude angle is zero because the sun's at the horizon. And then you have all the combinations in between. But your altitude angle and your latitude degrees are going to be always equaling 90 degrees. That's a fact. That's perfect design. So, and this is what I'm doing here again. So go down here, latitude degrees from sun, zero. Altitude angle to sun, 90 degrees. Perspective of elevation is that. So it goes from, so if we keep going down 5 degrees latitude, it's 85 degrees altitude angle. That's a perspective. It's just a percentage of the altitude angle that tells us perspective of its elevation. Because if you go all the way down to the bottom, latitude degrees of the sun is 90, then the altitude angle is zero. So the sun has zero elevation. And you can see how when you go from 90 up, every 5 degrees, you see how we get a higher elevation, perspective elevation of the sun. This is another way of seeing it, but this kind of shows that tint. I call it, it's really the sun's tint of sunlight coverage, because it does have a curve to it. And there it is. So this occurs at high noon all the time. It's got to be on the longitude line, same longitude north, and then it would be the opposite longitude south. No, I mean, it's the same longitude line from plus 90 center all the way out to minus 90 south perimeter. But the sun, that moves north and south between the tropics, and that its coverage is always like that. It doesn't change. So what I did here is I got the navigational data for each month, the first of each month in 2024, all the way for each month throughout the year, and I did a triangulation at 45 degrees latitude north and south of the sun. And this is just the data points. I'm going to move through this quickly. So that's the first 6 months, January to June. Then that's the second 6 months, July to December. Plotted them out. So here we go. What you're seeing here, and this is all to scale, by the way. So when you look at the month 2024, you see it there on the left, January through December. It tells us the north latitude we are when we're 45 degrees latitude north of where the sun's located. That's the actual latitude degrees. The zenith latitude is exactly where the sun is, straight up. That's those locations. And south latitude is 45 degrees south. Okay. So whenever you look the difference between north latitude and zenith latitude, it's going to be, when you look at those degrees, it'll always be 45 degrees between it. Same way with south latitude to zenith latitude, which is 3,107 miles on the level Earth. That's why it's 3,107 miles to the sun. So this tells us that it occurs all the time. And you can see this tint of sunlight coverage, which I pretty much showed here as it's going down. So if we're at a 45 degree angle, then the angle coming back is 45 because they're always going to be 90 degrees. Well, half of 3,107 miles is 1,554 miles of perspective of height. Okay. That's how this stuff works. So I just show that again. We've seen that before, but now I'm going to apply it to the illusionary globe Earth. And the illusionary globe Earth obeys Yahuwah's intentional intelligent design of his circular level plane Earth and sun. So now look. Remember how they say, well, the sun's lines are always parallel? Look what we see here. Oh yeah, they're parallel, sure. They're parallel. They're parallel to the Earth. But when you start looking at 0 degrees latitude equator and you go 5 degrees on the curve, you have an 85 degrees altitude angle. It's a straight line. So 85 plus 5, you get a straight line. You do this all the way around the circle, you're going to get 90 degrees totaling up, and it's a straight line. Here comes the illusion. It does it on the other side. Not only that, but see the perspective elevations? They're exactly the same as what I show here on the level plane. They're the exact same. And so I call this line here perspective of sun's elevation above sea level in miles. That's what it does on the circular level plane Earth. So they can't lie. It's still there. It's still there. So now I took the same 45 degree angle. These are the same data points for all the 12 months, right? So look what happens. I've got north latitude to zenith. If you look at that curve, I show 3,107 miles of distance on the curve because the circumference is the exact same distance as the circumference of the Earth is the exact same distance as the longitude line of the level Earth. Okay. So now when I apply these angles by using the horizon, I get a 45 degrees and 45 degrees angle. And so where that when I see that horizon and I do a line from the horizon from what my viewpoint on the Earth is, if it's a circular Earth, if it's bending, then my perspective is the same, 1,554 miles, because my angles are the same. And then you see what happens is it's bending down. It's showing me the same distance to triangulate on the globe Earth. I can triangulate now based on this on either side for any time during the whole year. So it tells me again that I have the same perspective on the circular level plane Earth, but I'm actually triangulating to 3,107 miles, not 93 million miles. Literally. I mean, this right here. It doesn't lie. So if the sun is only 3,100 some miles from the Earth, what is the sun's true diameter? I've done this so many times. Because you look at what NASA and mainstream science states. At its closest distance, the sun is 91 million miles from the Earth, and the sun's diameter is 870,000 miles. So if we look at that distance to diameter ratio, which is 91.5 million divided by 870,000, we get a ratio of 105.1. That's the specific cone of perspective. Within this cone of perspective, the sun will appear to be the same size between 1 mile to 91.5 million miles from the Earth. It doesn't matter because we can't tell with our perspective. But again, the United States Naval Observatory data in double triangulation always proves the sun's distance from the Earth is 3,107 miles above sea level. Now we've done it both on the level plane and the illusionary globe Earth. We can show it both ways. So when we take that distance to diameter ratio, 105.2 to 3,107 miles, we get 30 miles in diameter of the sun. And that's for the moon too. This is another way to look at it. The perspective, this kind of viewpoint here, we have our observation point. And as we look farther out, the perspective distance from the bottom to the top of the perspective gets larger and larger. But the sun would still appear to be the same size. And so that kind of perspective ratio, I'm showing it, if we look from the bottom up, 91.5 million miles and the 870,000 miles ratios, and we start lessening and lessening and lessening, we see where it happens when we realize it's at 3,107 miles, we get 30 miles in diameter of what the true sun is. That's our perspective, put it that way. Now, I'm going to go through this real quick, but this just follows through the point with the sundial. That's how we can tell. Sundial tells us the same thing that we see when we get the altitude angle. So the altitude angle A, when we find that out on a sundial, even through just regular geometry, we can do it without any calculations, but just by doing it on AutoCAD or whatever, we know that the angle at the top coming down is going to be 90 degrees less than angle A. It's just a geometric law, which again tells us the altitude angle. If we know that, and then we take that angle minus it from 90 degrees, then we know how far the sun is latitude-wise from us. So yesterday, Josh, I actually did this yesterday. It was nice and sunny here. I took a reading on the sundial, January 9th, 2025, solar noon in Myrtle Beach. So I already know side A is my gnome of that triangle. The gnome here is basically what you see creating the shadow. It's 4.5 inches high. Picture I took, the shadow length there is 6.59 inches. So now I know what my side B sun shadow length is on that triangle. So now I put it up. So I've got side B, 6.59 inches. That's the shadow length, and the height is 4.5. If I just do this on AutoCAD, I get this anyway. It's 34.33 degrees altitude angle, and the opposite angle looking down is 55.67 degrees. That tells me that I am 55.67 latitude degrees away from the sun at my latitude point. So all I got to do at the bottom here is realize I'm 55.67 degrees latitude away from the sun. And then I use this, it's perfect geometry. If I know I'm 56.6 miles away, all I have to do is subtract 56.67 degrees from my latitude point. So it tells me that the sun is at minus 21.93 degrees latitude, which it should be because it's just now coming back from the tropical Capricorn. Okay. So this is what I'm showing here is these angles again. They're showing the altitude angle and then the angle with 55.67 degrees opposite angle, which is the latitude degrees, gives me a perspective of 1,185 miles. It tells me now that I know that the sun is at minus 21.93 latitude. There it is. It's following that sun's tint of sunlight coverage. And I know that the latitude difference for the equator to minus 21 is 21.93 latitude miles is 1,514 miles, because all I got to do is multiply 21.93 by 69 miles per latitude. It's just hard evidence. So now I'm comparing, like I always do this every time. I'm going to check yesterday's data with the navigational data. So I go on the left here. It's my input data. I'm going to look at the sun on January 9th. And here's my latitude and longitude, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I tell them I'm 5 hours west of Greenwich. And so I get the data. And this is a view, part of the view. All I needed to find out is high noon, because that's when I took my sundial reading. So at time 12:23, the altitude angle is 34.3 degrees at 180 degrees angle. Now, the navigational data only goes to the tenths of degrees, where I can go to 100ths. So, but I had 33.33. So, it's right on the money. So this is telling us that the uh, basically get farther down here, that when you look at this point down here, it says U.S. navigational data has the sun located at 21.96 latitude degrees, because what I did was I used the tenth of the degree, and it changed it a little bit. It went to minus 21.96 degrees latitude. But guess what I had? 21.93. So close. So if you look at the difference between those two data points, it's 0.03 latitude degrees. That's only 2 miles. That's pretty darn close. That's very accurate. Matter of fact, I'm probably more accurate than that, because it doesn't go to the hundredth of degree latitude. I do on my sundial. So now I can do the same thing on the Earth, on the circumlevel plane Earth. It shows the same exact data, and it tells me that when I see the perspective on the quote globe Earth, it's the same elevation. It's going to be the same elevation, and I'm going to blow this up right here. It does the same thing on the horizon. I use my data, 24.33 degrees on the horizon. I get that same latitude distance behind it going down. I get the same elevation, and it's still, I'm still looking at a parallel ray now, right?
Yeah.
And look the difference between the latitudes. Here it's 55.67 latitude to where the sun is, and it's 3,107 miles. Is perfectly geometrically provable, and the Globers can't deny that. They cannot, because I can actually triangulate on their geometry. They can't. I'm triangulating on their geometry every time. I'd like to see how they would. Well, they'll somehow probably just ignore it,
Yeah.
But I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yeah, that was. I was watching people. Somebody said my brain hurts. Yeah, I know that's some deep level stuff, and to me, it's good to have someone who can understand angles and math and latitudes and do all these things. We're all working together to figure this out. And
Right.
somebody like Gleason, who did his map, he was one person, and they always expect somebody to figure all these things out that we're told we cannot measure, and we're
Right.
given a model by the sun god worshippers that have all the measurements, and those measurements have changed. They've had to raise the goalpost, for the globe. When things don't fit, they add more numbers, they keep adding numbers, they add more theories. And so they've added a bunch of things, but they have numbers, and we've been used to just being spoon fed the numbers. Like, where is it at in the textbook? Let me find it. Oh, there it is, 66,600 miles per hour, and here's
Right.
the distance to the sun. That's a new distance. The distances we have, they're very new,
Oh,
not
oh
things that have
yeah.
been around forever. The Greeks didn't
Yeah.
have out. But yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
So the reason I go to that level is because that's scientific. This is getting
Yeah,
scientific on the flat Earth circular level plane side, and I would challenge anybody on the globe side to discount anything that I said tonight.
yeah,
Try to prove me wrong, And because I'm not boasting. I'm just saying I'm seeing the glory of Yahuwah here.
yeah.
His truth's coming through.
Yeah, his
And
truth always shows up, and
yeah,
you keep looking. There's going to be things that make sense with the firmament. Things like rainbows getting shorter when
yeah,
you get towards Antarctica. It's one thing to hear George talking about it getting possibly lower as you get that direction. We don't know how low, but you can do things to see that that's most likely what's happening. And things simple like the rainbow can
Yeah.
give us major clues that it's there. Things like comets, light shining through the firmament, the tail end of them always pointing away from the sun because
Hmm.
the light is most likely shining into, guess what? That first layer of the firmament he was talking about. And so when you see things, like comets looking at
Yeah.
this, that sun being in that second firmament, shining through, and this picture here on the right, it's not a comet. It's just light shining through a barrier. The reason
Hmm.
tails of comets are always facing away from the sun, I believe, is because you have those lights
Yeah.
shining in through the firmament. So it's a lot of stuff that you can see looking
Yeah.
up at the sky that we've just been given worldly definitions of things and understandings. And
Exactly.
so starting to see the truth, starting to put everything to the test. It's powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I know that was a lot of geometry and navigational data and things that are over my head to some degree with a lot of those things. But that's just we've been in our comfort zones of just seeing the cartoons and basic understandings. And when you try and actually really go and find out um, things about the globe model, it's hard. There's a lot of conflicting information and people that don't understand it. There's
Yeah.
people that don't even know how many moons the Earth has. I mean, like crazy stuff. Um,
I'm almost feeling led by the Father that I need to start doing sections, and you're perfect at doing this. Have classes just build up and build up, build up, right? Because I
mhm.
put stuff out there. Frankly, we've been so detuned or just made to be stupid people. I'll just put it that way. We're not being taught the right kind of education.
Yeah,
They purposely do that to dummy us down so we'll believe whatever they want us to hear. Um, I mean, I'm sure back in the day, the ancients were so superior to this because they didn't have anything else to distract them except what they lived in, you know?
yeah. They didn't have standards. They didn't go, and their teachers had this like script. Most likely, it
Yeah.
was they were excited about learning.
Yeah.
And
And their main job was to run their farm during the day. They were working in the farm and whatever time they had, they had a lot of extra time, I think, to learn about the environment they're living in.
yeah, and they kept record of things throughout history, like Captain Cook, who tried to find the continent of Antarctica and he ended up traveling 3 years saying, "There's no continent." He went over 60,000 nautical miles and was like, "There's no continent to be found, just this wall of ice." And that guy going on his journey, funded by the Royal Society, people controlling information,
Right.
they were interested in things that I didn't even know of until a student, one of my students in our fundamental breakdown course, said the purpose or primary purpose of that adventure was to see, witness Venus transit the sun. And they knew to go to a specific place. And then you start looking at how these things, how they knew when this was going to happen and all of that. It's fascinating stuff. They knew about these angles and a lot of things that George is talking about. They were able to map it out. And it's hard for me to imagine them mapping that out on the Big Bang model that really wasn't in its final stages in the 1600s. That this
Right.
was not long, or I guess was it 1700s with Captain Cook.
Yeah.
Not long after they allegedly discovered this new land and America and all of that. Like maps were pretty impressive back then. And there's some things you
Right.
were talking about, George, that look a lot like those ancient maps they were drawing back in the 1500s. And you were showing the multiple firmaments outside of the
Yeah.
Antarctic boundary. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that are mapped out and they're showing these alignments of stars, almost like they knew about multiple layers of the firmament. Something was there in those 1500 Urbano maps.
Hmm.
Fascinating stuff because they were able to track these things. It's really, really cool.
Well, you wonder back in the day when Levi or Enoch, Abraham, they might have written something down, right? That was passed on. But yeah,
No,
there's this saying here.
there's somebody saying it's not possible on the flat earth. Like we're saying, the firmament above us, just like you can't predict what's going to happen to something behind this dome here. You don't know which way
Right.
it's going to refract, which way it's going to go. Like you can make predictions. Oftentimes you're going to be wrong. The firmament above us is that great expanse. It's something that it's going to make the lights in the sky do things different than
Yeah.
what you would expect. So,
Well, people that don't believe in the dome or the firmament, they're going to say that because
yeah.
they just don't believe it. Of course, you show me you don't think it. How can you prove it's not there? You cannot prove it's not there.
Yeah.
You know.
We've got footage of the firmament. We have so many anomalies that are possible because of the firmament, the Elias effect.
Yep.
Rainbows getting shorter as you go south. Lots of things show us there's a firmament, not just the Bible. There's actual proof of that barrier. So the way the lights work in it are phenomenal, mysterious, can't measure it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops, I missed a comment. I was trying to click it. Earl
Oh,
Zeigler.
thanks, Earl.
Great work,
Appreciate
George.
that.
Yeah, I agree. Great work. Yeah, that's I could not imagine. I couldn't challenge him with a math problem if I tried.
Well, again, it's the math part of it's not. It's not that complicated.
Yeah,
It's just using basic triangles, and you do have to know like inverse tangent if you don't want to have to lay it out on AutoCAD. But I give all glory to the Father because He guides me. You know.
yeah. So where can you get all this info for $10? Yeah,
I'll tell you what, if I would love to start building lesson plans. I just need to look into it and know how to do it, and just do one section at a time. If I got it going, I'm not going to charge anybody. If I don't need any money, I'll just do it. I always like to do things because I love the Father.
yeah,
And,
yeah. That's a blessing. So yeah, you guys, George doing all this stuff. He's doing it. He's not doing it for money.
you
He
know,
he's doing this for the Father's glory with all the things he's doing. All the research hours. I'm talking many hours per day. You talk to his wife Teresa. She'd say, yeah, it's like 17 hours a day. He'll sit and like do this math and work this stuff out. He didn't really retire. He just went from working to working, working harder. You know.
yeah, I told you. I just I don't know. This past week, I started looking at. I thought, let me check and see on the new moons. I told you this. How far the moon is from the sun, because we know that every 29 or 30 days, the sun laps the moon and gets to it and then passes it. Uh, and so on the new moon, and when they're on the same longitude line, how far latitude miles are they apart? And so it didn't take me long at all to figure it out, because once you get the iterations going, it's like, oh. And I found out that every 10 degrees that the moon is, when it occurs, when the moon and the sun are at the same longitude line, and every 10 degrees that the moon is either south or north latitude of the sun, the altitude angle changes by 10 degrees. It would be like 10 degrees would be 90 degrees. Again, it's following that thing where the altitude angle and the latitude angle are going to add up to 90. So I came to the conclusion, I thought, okay, well, let me check and see when any type of solar eclipse is total, annular, or partial, and how far apart they were. Well, when they had the total eclipses, they're very close, like 24 miles apart. When you had the annulars, they could have been around 30 miles apart. Partial, they go about 60 miles. But anything past 70, no way, Jose. Because what happens if you're 70 miles apart, your altitude angle is 30, or it gets to the point where the sun's too low on the horizon to have the same altitude angle as the moon. That's what's happening. So that's why there's only 2 months in a year when the quote could be a solar eclipse, because in those 2 months the moon happens to be somewhere between 60 to 10 miles from the sun. All the other times it's like 200, 300, 400 miles away. And I've actually got perspectives on that, again, using the circular level plane Earth and showing how the altitude angles are impossible past 60 degrees. That's why there's no solar eclipse. Fake solar eclipse is occurring on those other new moons.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
We're doing our moon phase lessons, and it's interesting stuff. Learning about the moon, all the different things about it, how they can predict its colors years in advance, like
Yeah.
almost like they're predicting the weather 10 years from now. It's going to cause this
Well,
reddish color on the moon
and
based on our atmosphere shining.
the lunar eclipse, I mean, when you think about that, we know there's no eclipse because circular level plane. We just know that the sun and the moon are just 180 degrees apart above the Earth. So the Earth is not in the way of it. But there's something going on with some sequencing going on with energy, which is very interesting. So there's a sign there. I think it's a sign from the Father what's going on. And of course, they're going to change it to something else.
Yeah. I'm reading comments, trying to see if we have any questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Always enjoy having you guys joining us with these studies.
And thanks for having me on again, Josh. I know you're super, super busy with everything.
Yeah, that's good. It's after I like doing them late on Friday. It's rolling into Sabbath, and we can sit back and not have to worry about all the work we got to do, because always so much work to be done. Everybody
Can't
wants to
imagine
be
it.
a laborer, and we've been blessed with lots of work before us to do.
Yeah.
Rewarding work, but it's a lot of work. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
You got to be careful what you ask for when you say, Father, use me. I used to say that all the time. Just use me.
I think like 5 years ago, I was like, I never would have thought I'd be doing this. It's like, wow, what a change. What a
Yeah,
change.
rapidly. I know. I can't believe we're doing what we're doing now, considering how I was years ago, just in that zombie land. It felt like, where you're walking around, knowing there's more out there to creation, and just not knowing what it is, feeling that something's off, not knowing what it is, asking the Father to wake you up. And when he does, he wakes you wide awake. I mean, I was asleep and he woke me up, and it's been a journey, to say the least, coming out of Babylon even further. You think you're out of it, and then you realize, no, I was just kind of on the outskirts of it, walking around, still looking at the stuff and still partaking in some of the things. And it's like, come out of her, my people. He's bringing us out, and he is waking up a generation of truth soldiers that I don't think has been around in a long time, when it comes to just pure, humble, seeking, spirit-filled people, and their children, having their children grow up in these truths, creating these truth soldiers. It's a beautiful thing. And that's what I've been able to witness that with Creation Standard. I knew that was going on. But once we started doing that, and I started seeing the parents, how well they've raised their children, the things they're not exposing their children to, the fact that they are trusting someone to go at science with a biblical approach, it's been powerful.
Oh man.
So, yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I'm seeing that our Father's he's at work. It's nothing we're doing, it's what he's doing, and it's powerful. And I think that's why we have a lot of division going on right now. The enemy knows that. He knows that the foundations he's been trying to cram into our minds, to remove the firmament, to remove the Creator's wisdom. He knows they've had this entire time that we've been doing this investigation to show us proof, and we haven't seen it. And it's like, now here they come, with their proof. It's final, and everybody's getting shaken up, and you can see, I literally can sense the powers of darkness at work with this. Like, it's just like a dark cloud went out, and it's almost like it's going from person to person, and people are just lashing out and being angry and in their feelings. And to me, I just can sense the demonic powers at work when I see it. And it's been disheartening. It really has. It's been
it is,
really, really sad to see, but we're getting a lot of good stuff out of it.
Yeah, the sad thing is that you've got believers, kind of harassing or making fun of other believers, and that should never happen. That's not part of what Yahusha told us. We need to love one another if we're in the faith, right? So, and that's not happening now. So hopefully that'll stop. But well, it gets back to the Hebrews. We talked about that earlier. The first thing, that you rewards those who diligently seek him. And I think we'll just continue to seek him and try to know more truth, not just on the cosmology, but all about his word and everything about what we should expect in the future, the ways that we should be living if we're doing something wrong, to make sure we follow that. And, your channel, Ken Heidrich, Sean Griffin, Wes Blaze, all that group of believers is such a blessing. Such a blessing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've learned so much from you guys. It's crazy how much I've learned just tuning in. And it's hard to find people that are sticking to the word to find their answers. And they're out there, and it seems like we're all being united. And speaking of believers like that, we'll be live again on the 16th. So that's a Thursday. I guess less than a week from today. with Mike from Flat Earth Archives. He's going to be
Nice.
joining us, and we're going to be talking about more lights in the firmament. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk with
Yeah.
him. And,
Sounds
he's
great.
going to give a breakdown with the moon. George talked a lot about the moon and the sun and the paths, and he's going to be talking about the moon. And I'm hoping to learn some stuff again from him as well, because that was sort of his specialty. And I've been wanting to
Mhm.
have him on. He had us come on his channel or page. He has a Facebook page called Flat Earth Archives, and a lot of stuff there, or Flat Earth
Nice.
Archive. I think it's singular. And so you can find that on Facebook and follow him. He shares stuff continually, like really good stuff, and he
Mhm.
archives things. I guess that's why I gave
Yeah,
it the name. He keeps
he
all of it
does.
there. So
He's
he's
got
got some great stuff.
so much information on his Facebook page. It's incredible. It's great.
Yeah. So we'll be back then. Make sure you tune in. Let me see what time it is. I put it on my calendar. 8 p.m.
Good part, yeah.
8 p.m. He's in California and he's safe from the wildfires. I know there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like in the world, it just feels like there's evil controllers going, all right, what can we do now? Flood
Yeah.
this part of the world over here,
Yeah.
flood these guys. Okay, now burn this part. All right, now over here, snow in the south. Like it's like everything's just so crazy
Yeah.
with worldly events. You can just turn on the news and it's like doomsday every day. Like
No, but it's all about
crazy.
climate change, don't you know?
Yeah. 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 They arrested one of the guys who started the fire and they're like, look, they finally found climate change. There he is. He's been elusive for all these years. We found him, the arsonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy times. You got to pray for these
Yeah.
people who are losing everything, whether it's intentional.
Wow.
I mean, I think some of the fires, obviously, they're intentional. They don't just like spring up in random places on accident. Stuff's
And then
been,
they don't have any water to fight the fires. It's like, are you kidding me? You know,
yeah,
that sounds planned.
yeah. Oops, we're out of water. Yeah, hold back the water, start the fires. All right, go. I mean, I'm telling you, it just seems like a board game for these Illuminati
Yeah.
puppet people. It does. They
And
don't care
then
about lives. They're
insurance companies actually drop their insurance before it happens. I mean, that happened
yes.
out in North Carolina too. It's
Yeah,
just,
that's true. Yeah, it happened with the
yep,
insurance who they
yep,
have to be in on it. I think as far as mega, the merchants of the earth, so to speak, those rich people, it's like you have pharmacy. I'm afraid to say that out loud. Um, you have big oil and insurance. I mean, insurance and the people we're paying taxes to making the most money. I'm talking like we are just now like we're not even landowners. We like to say we're landowners, but we have bought land and then you rent it by paying thousands of dollars of taxes every year. Thousands.
right,
I already paid taxes on it when I bought it. And it's like,
right,
it's heartbreaking because it's like, man, like there's no freedom in that. It's not like the Father's beautiful system where you could grow and prosper.
right.
There were no taxes. They talk about the law being a burden. There were no taxes with the law.
Yeah,
10% would be a gift. I would gladly go, all right, here's 10% of everything. Gladly. Because
yeah.
right now we're giving and we don't
Way
realize
up there. Way
well
up.
over 31 or so percent on our income. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want to talk about it because it's Sabbath, but like it's sad.
yeah,
The Father's law is perfect. It's way better than this worldly system. And we were warned about taxes by Samuel.
yeah.
He's like, this
Well,
is what's going to happen.
we're still taxed by the king. The king is the government in our situation. They just got rid of the person and made it the government is the king.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Even if we disagree, that's the thing about what I love with fellowship. We have our Sabbath studies. We're going to have tomorrow with George and a bunch of other people. And we're a group of people that have different beliefs and we have to be humble and still love each other and fellowship and not be like, sorry, you're not adhering to our creed that we just wrote, or whatever. Like
Yeah,
the truth is powerful. It doesn't fear investigation. And, it's tough. You would love to have everybody believe like you, but with as much information as out there and we're all on different tracks, like even my twin brother and I don't have the same beliefs right now, currently, it's crazy. And we grew up together.
yeah.
Somebody says we won't be able to buy. Yeah, we won't be able to buy. Talking about not being able to buy, sell, or trade. When I think about that, it's interesting. Not being able to buy, sell, or trade unless you get the mark. Where do you go to buy things? The market. Market. Go to the market where you can buy, sell, and trade. Yeah, but doesn't say you can't grow things.
They're
Doesn't
going
say
to
that.
change all that. They're going to change all that. You'll have robotic drones dropping off whatever you need to eat.
Yeah. Let me scan my mark. Beep. Yeah. Yeah, there's spiritual stuff going on. The Father is going to seal and protect his own. Nothing
Yep.
nothing to worry about. Endure to the end. There may be persecution, but the Father is protecting his creation. He's designed
Amen.
such a nice place for all of us. The way he's designed it makes so much sense when you look at it from the aspect that we have a masterful engineer. Like the
Oh,
things you hear George talking about, seems like it's over
so
your
cool.
head. When it gets to the stuff that he had to think about to create, to sustain our lives, we can't even understand it. It's down to
Mhm.
like how much the density of the air we breathe is compared to the density of other airs that float above the air that we breathe.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's fascinating stuff. It's
it is.
down to everything beyond microscopic levels.
Yeah,
Powerful,
great.
powerful
Amen.
stuff. Well, I won't keep you guys much longer. It's been over 2 hours. I'm gonna go play in the snow. I told my son we'd go out on a little night snow adventure and like see if we can make a giant snowball or something because we don't get
That's
snow here very often. This is once in like every 10 years or more that we get snow.
that's a four-letter word for us Myrtle Beachians.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys got rain.
Yeah, we got rain. They were saying some snow this morning, but it never was snow.
Oh
So,
man, I hope you guys get a little bit of snow. Then you could walk down to the beach. It'd be cool seeing snow on the beach. That'd be an interesting sight. Like
so I
snow.
saw something on Facebook. Myrtle Beach had snow 35 years ago, 7 inches of snow right on the sand. I can't believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, 35 years ago. It's like I don't want that here.
You look like you're in Antarctica. That'd be so cool. Or Alaska. Wow.
Looking for penguins.
Yeah. Go out there and film your own final experiment.
Yeah, that was not the final experiment.
I know. Our Father's words are final. Don't claim to be a preacher for the Most High if you're not going to let His words be final. If you're going to allow one observation to be final, yeah. Sorry, but judgment is coming
Yeah.
soon.
Did you?
Teachers are held to a higher standard.
Yeah, that's right. Did you hear that? Did you see any of that Joe Hanvey at the end? He talked to Will, and then Joe got off real quick because it just wasn't going right.
Yeah.
Right after
Oh,
Joe
it
got
was
off,
sad.
right after Joe got off, Will said, "There's no dome." It's like,
Yep. There's no firmament. Yeah. Ignore the prophets. Yeah.
yeah,
Being a
yeah.
false witness against the prophets
He
is
has to
far
say
worse
that
than being a
because
far witness against your neighbors because they
so
spoke truth.
basically, he says the Bible's not true because the Bible
Yeah.
tells us there's a firmament, but he says there's no dome. It's
Yeah,
like,
I
what?
know. It's
What?
interesting when he went down there, he didn't say, we found proof of the Bible. We found proof of biblical creation. No, we found proof of the sun god model, the
Right.
globe. It
Right.
was never about proving the Bible.
Nope. Yeah.
Everything we have to do in terms of our experiments is geared towards proving that the words of the Bible are true. And when you actually are doing that, you're going to find out it is true.
Yeah.
So, not looking for curvature. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find motion. They flew their planes over a flat, stationary plane.
Yeah.
They
And you
did
know
not
what?
tip the nose
We
down.
should challenge Will. Let's go down there again and let's walk all the way to the south and see if there is a firmament.
Yeah. Let's go
Let's
down
do
there
it.
with lasers when it's dark, the wintertime. We'll go down there. Nobody lives there in the wintertime. They say nobody lives there. 10 million people live above the 60th north parallel. No
Yeah.
one almost, they say,
Yeah.
lives below 60th south parallel. So yeah, go down there in the wintertime with lasers and see how far we can shine these things. But then they'll raise the goalpost.
Yeah.
They'll say, no, 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 no. There's a refraction. That light is curving.
It's
We
a
talk about
mirage.
we
It's a
talk about the
mirage.
firmament doing that. Yeah, they can curve literally line of sight signals from England to Australia. Think about how many thousands of miles that is.
Right.
Refraction.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. Refraction. Now they should have
Uh,
said, "Man, that's our final observation right there."
and if you see percuscular rays, ever see those? That's
Yeah,
in a mirage too. That's not real.
it's refraction. Yeah,
It's like,
goalposts keep moving.
and those chemtrails up there, they're just water vapor.
Yeah. Someone said, "Let's send Josh. I trust him." Yeah, to go to Antarctica. I'm so glad I didn't go on that last trip. But yeah, my brother
Yeah.
actually talked to a guy who's like, "I could send you guys. Navigation is my thing." He's like a millionaire. I don't know. That'd be really cool if that came to fruition. This guy was like,
That's cool.
he found out about Michael's beliefs. He's like, "How do we settle that?" And Michael's like, "Antarctica, probably." He's like, "Okay, we can send you down there." Like, what? Yeah.
Really?
I'd have to I would want to like really document everything and I would want to bring like you and like
Yeah,
Ben from Taboo Conspiracy. I'd have to bring
I'd
him
love
with
to
his
do that.
lasers.
That'd be awesome.
That'd
You
be
got
so much fun.
so you
Real
trust
biblical
that?
truthers go in there to make observations.
Yeah.
because I know we couldn't break the Antarctic Treaty, but it would be nice to go that far and keep going south in a plane.
Yep.
I don't know about getting out in the cold. It does look pretty rough, but
I remember days when at night, actually nighttime, I forgot about the sliding glass door was closed and I'd hit right into it. It's like that's what it'd be like going down there. Just
yeah.
like, oh, there it is.
Well, there it is. There's our final observation right there. Yeah.
Oh, broke my nose.
Yeah. I've done that too. Yeah. I'm starting to experiment now with dome or not domes necessarily, not like Joe Hanvey. I want to have him on. I've reached out to him. Hopefully I can have him on. But like containers with water and shining light through them and seeing what happens. And it's phenomenal. If you drop down below, kind of like a fish tank, if you've ever had a fish tank, if you shine a light over the surface of the water and you're looking down, you don't see your light. It's the weirdest thing. Like it just eclipses. It goes behind the surface of the water and you don't see it until you go down behind the tank and you go all the way down to the table that it's setting on. Then I could look up and see the light. It's the weirdest thing. I'm like, how this defies what I think is possible. And so
Yeah.
it just humbles you to see like you don't really know what's going to happen when you look
Right.
at lights in the firmament above. How many layers does it have? How does that impact it? The waters, all of those things, like
Yeah.
where are they at? How do they play into it? Cool stuff.
Well, on the day of the Lord, we're definitely, like you said, we're going to see at least probably two firmaments open up,
Yeah.
right?
The great light of the world returning. Hallelujah. I cannot wait. I mean, it's going to be a day of dread for many, but for me, it's like, man, I'm just looking forward to uniting with the one who's healed me, the one who's shown us all these
Yeah.
things. Like
Yeah.
seeing that firmament part and the beloved Son at the right hand of the Father, the trumpet of God blowing,
Yep.
the firmament parting, like there it is. Now we see it. Some cool stuff. Cannot wait.
Yeah, for sure.
Feet touching down on the Mount of Olives. And that day of when he's battling against the people, it's going to be
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
And they are telling the truth. What do you say? I think that this has become a dark cloud. They're obviously not telling the truth when it comes to our Father's provable truth of creation. Austin is sticking to the right side by saying it's a data point. You know, we've got data now. We've seen something. If they did really see it, if it wasn't a sun simulator,
I don't think it was.
I don't think I don't think it was either.
I thought it would be, but no, not anymore. I
Yeah.
see the data. The data is showing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I look forward to continuing to break it down. I'm skeptical of their stuff. You know, it is odd the way things panned out that it was like he's just like, it's gonna be sunny. And he gets there and it's sunny. And it's like 2 months for 2 months straight, it was not sunny. It was cloudy, you know, and there was no wind. It just seemed odd. A lot of things seemed odd about it, but the enemy has power to deceive, according to the word. He's going to be pulling off some deceptions. We got fire coming down from above all the time with
Well,
Elon.
I thought I heard Jaron left Flat Earth. He won't call it
He
Flat
says
Earth.
he did, but I don't know. I read it, yeah, and it just I'm
I
not
don't know what that
surprised.
means.
There is a documentary. My thought about it, Kyra, there's a documentary coming out, and I think it's going to be far more promoted than Behind the Curve, because when you go to controlled op information, I mean, it's everywhere. The stories about the final experiment. You never see that about our laser tests that destroy the globe ever.
Right.
You don't ever see globe earthers admit they were wrong. They didn't see any curve over here. You know, like that's never, if it's a fake news story like that that goes against creation, it's going to be promoted. And there's a documentary. It's an investment. The guy funding this trip is an investor. He was investing in worldly fame, I believe. And there's going to be a lot of fame and wealth that follows with the documentary they're making. It was all about making a documentary. And so I think it's going to be like Behind the Curve, where you hear that was interesting. And then it's like, oh, it's over. A flat earther says that's interesting because they saw curvature. You know, it's going to be probably Jaron saying, well, we were wrong. And then it's going to end.
Yeah,
now,
right.
It's all speculation, but I think that's probably how it's going to go. And the documentary is going to be huge. Yep. What's that, George? Sorry, go ahead.
They'll just take his voice clip on that and just cut it.
Yeah.
So when Sean Griffin had the three of them on, the other girl that went with Jaron and Austin, so I sent in the chat. I said, you know, because talking about Candace Owen, I was asking in the chat, well, what's Candace Owens, you know, view on this, but nobody ever responded. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to see what happens on
I,
that.
I really do. I know because she's really good. She called out NASA. Candace Owens did, and she
Yeah,
was like Rob Skiba level good when she was
yeah,
talking about the demonic origins of NASA. And I was like,
right.
she's done her research. Like she hasn't just found like conspiratory stuff. She found the actual evidence for this. It's documented. The rituals they were doing were
Yeah,
satanic. They named their first mission after Mercury,
yeah,
the god of the
right,
underworld, for a reason.
right,
These people weren't like, oh, let's name our mission Genesis or something. It was like it's
right.
very dark. The wisdom of this world comes from these dark places. The mark of the enemy is in that wisdom. And
Yeah,
she's somebody who could be used for good. And I'm
yeah,
hoping she will be.
yeah. Me too.
She's a part of that documentary. I think it's going to try to be a hit piece. I just pray that it backfires because so much work has gone into the proving the Father's creation model is true, and we've had
Yeah,
a lot of people doing a lot of work. We need to stay together and stop spending our time calling everybody out. They are united. They're laughing, like they're even throwing somebody like Austin under the bus. Everybody's like, "Oh, Austin's one of them," and then
yeah.
meanwhile, McKeegan's like, well, yeah, I think he did vape, and yeah, so but it doesn't
That's
destroy the
all.
final experiment. Like they're really trying to hurt people like that. Hurt somebody
Yeah,
like Austin who has destroyed the globe thousands of times over,
yeah,
and his work to this day speaks for itself. It does that. It
yeah.
destroys the globe.
That's
Um,
just a distraction.
yeah,
Distraction. It's just so stupid to even address and even talk about.
yeah. Don't
Waste of
don't let
time.
it break you apart
Waste
from
of time.
fellowship.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. With your friends. I've seen people stop being friends because they're like, "Oh, you believe they actually went and they weren't on a stage?" And I'm done. I'm done with you. It's like, no, calm down. Like this stuff
Right.
it just happened, okay, and it doesn't disprove what we believe. It doesn't destroy
No,
or add curvature. You can't add curvature by looking up.
no.
Paying somebody to level your house and they just come in and look at your ceiling fan, they're not good at leveling your house. You need to find somebody with lasers and levels that can do that.
It just amazes me that that's not taught at all. But I guess that's why they don't talk about the surface of water in school or anything like that and how it functions. If they did,
Oh yeah,
it'd go when? Well, that's amazing. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, we should have been in geometry class. Why weren't they like, here's the curve formula, here's how
Yeah.
you can prove it, measure
Right.
it? No, and
And
that's why all the globe proofs they don't have curvature measurements. I would like to see somebody take their visuals of the distant mountains and do curve calculations. Like focus on that. Stop
so
looking at the shadows. Look at the distant objects. See how far away they are.
I didn't know if you noticed, but when I did the geometry on the curvature Earth, it would show every time what the curvature amount was, how many miles.
Hmm.
Each time wherever the sun was versus on the observation, it's right there too.
Oh,
It's
that's cool.
yep, yep,
Like I said, I wonder where the sprites come from. Plasma ball lamps are, I think that's one of my favorite things is the plasma ball lamp because sprites are a plasma phenomenon, they say, and you can only have them with a plasma ball lamp replicated. You break the dome, they go away. And so they happen beneath that first layer of the firmament because you can see them shooting down and they interact with lightning, similar to how if you touch the top of a plasma ball lamp, it's going to make that little lightning strike. Enoch tells us the stars are involved. And so those stars would be in another layer, probably behind the sun, maybe in the third firmament. I don't know. The chiefs of the stars transgressed their paths, according to Enoch, or they were going to transgress their paths in the generation of sinners, coming up, the one that we're in, I believe, and they were going to be used to deceive mankind. And so he was also shown that those stars help make those lightning sprites. And so there's interactions with the different layers, essentially, and that's why the plasma ball, I can touch it and do that. I can also take a light bulb, a certain type of light bulb. Let me see, I don't see it laying around, and put it over top of the plasma ball lamp, and it lights up. Even though glass is an insulator, it lights up. There's energy that you can see from these things. And I think Nikola Tesla was the inventor of the plasma ball lamp type of device. So yeah, lightning sprites, they help reveal the firmament, and you can look into that. I mean, you can test it out, see that that's a similar effect, and you can only do it with a barrier. You get rid of the barrier, no more lightning sprite phenomenon witnessed inside the plasma ball lamp.
So actually, the Apocalypse of Abraham, I think it's where is it? I just lost it. Um,
I've got to read that now. I have
chapter,
yet to read
chapter
that.
chapter 27. He actually says the stars are in the fifth firmament.
Fifth, okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I guess was wrong if that's right.
And the fourth one has angels constantly singing hymns to the Father.
Wow.
It's amazing, when you see this stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
wow.
it reminds me of the rainbow. Those 7 colors, 7 layers, 7 days,
Yeah.
7 millennial days. All this stuff. I mean, it's beautiful. It's mathematical. It shows you our Father's mark. You
Yeah.
know,
And
the
then when you
7.
see, I mean, the third heaven is talked a lot of in Revelation, First
Mm-hmm.
Corinthians, Paul talks about it. And when you start seeing the structure that you have created, it's like, oh my goodness, now you understand what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, and they knew about it. That's what's cool to me is like when they said second heaven, third heaven, they weren't like, "Oh, let me give you some background information." They knew their audience already knew what that
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah.
When we talk about it, it's like, well, you probably haven't heard about this except for in, the Bible and
Right.
they talk about the second, third heaven, but there's possibly more layers and what does that mean?
Right.
There's not a third deep space. It's not like, oh, there's deep space, but then there's a second and third deep space. And then there's heaven. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, wait a minute. There's multiverses too.
yeah.
With all these, what are they, quantum computers? You heard about that, right? They're making calculations in 5 minutes. It would take billions of years for the regular computers to do. And they think it's other multiverses with their computers putting it together. It's like, are you kidding me, man? What are they
Yeah.
smoking? What in the world?
Yeah. He stretched the heavens as a tent. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Amen.
Like a tent for the sun to
Amen.
dwell in, not for us to go around and we'd be outside that tent if we were revolving around the sun. The sun's in the
Yeah,
tent. We're
yeah,
outside the tent floating around. Let us back in.
it's crazy.
How can he be above the earth if the sun's in the tent and
Yeah.
we're flying around the sun? Doesn't make sense. That's a good one there. I like that. It's the physical realm. Looking at your comment. Well,
So
awesome.
I don't know if you did you see Aubrey from Candace Truth, her video on talking to AI about.
No, I didn't. That stuff gives me the creeps. Ever
Oh
since we
my
had our
God.
like demonic encounter with AI with my son, I'm like, ah, I like
I I
I creep
watched it
out.
because she was trying to have a conversation, and she said depends on what robot you get. So obviously she says they're Neuralink. She's into software design, computer design, so she knows a lot about it.
Yeah,
But oh my goodness, she got the responses coming back. It was like a preacher, better than a preacher, telling
yeah.
the truth that we understand. It's like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
So that was crazy because it does have access to all literature and it's working together, all literature at the same time, and they'll just bring stuff out. It's like, and she would like just have another view of what her thought was, and it would understand that. And then it would go, yeah, this is in this case, yeah, you know what? You shouldn't be doing these things if you truly want to worship the one true God. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Wow. That's what I feel like they're going to do. I feel like it's going to put out a lot of truth and then it's going to get very controlling because it's like they make everything look so good. It's like it's giving out free
Right,
stuff, free information, free
right,
songs, free videos, free this, free that,
right.
and then not free. Here you go, copyrighted.
Yeah.
We own all your stuff. Everything you've done, it's ours.
It's all part about the control later on. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's all everything that starts out like that. Everything about control starts out as free and good. And I think that was
Yeah.
Nazi Germany. Here's some free radios, but you can only listen to our stations. But you got a free radio. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
your TV. It's got the same controlled media, all of them with
Yeah.
different
Right.
names and different
Much of the
logos.
same
But
thing.
here's your TV. Prices are going down. Put this in your house. All right, stare at it all day. Here you go.
Crazy.
No more movie stores, but we can give you streaming programs that we pick what is trending.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting how they can control the information, but our Father's Holy Spirit, they can't control that. He can.
Not at all.
He is waking us up, pouring it out, giving us truth. So we're blessed for that. And
Yeah.
it's getting late, so I'll let George get back to his wonderful wife, Teresa. Hey, Teresa, if you're ever watching. Awesome person. She's a great host. It was a blessing getting to go to their house and
Yeah, we had a great time with you and the family. That was awesome.
crashing the place with our young ones. They loved it. They had so much fun.
Got to get Cohen on the drums again.
Yes, I know. I need to add that to the intro. I forgot about that where he was drumming. I go into George's office. It's like a music room where he does his research and his music and stuff. And he has Cohen playing my two-year-old playing the drums, and he just turned 2. He was barely 2, playing the drums. It looked like a real drummer, and he'd given him pointers. And Cohen, he was listening. It was adorable.
That was cute. All right, Josh. Love you, man.
Yeah, well, we love you, brother. Thanks so much. It's been a blessing. It was
Same here.
a lot of information. So if you're just joining
I
and you missed
know.
it, go back, watch it 5 or 6 times. Take what you can understand. Maybe do some research to find out more about what he's saying, because the navigational data stuff will make more sense when you start studying it out a little bit. Because
I
to
just
me,
hope more people do the same thing. There's got to be more people doing this, but I haven't found anybody yet because it's there, and would love to see more do that.
yeah, for real. Well, stay warm, guys, if you're in the snow, and stay cool if you're in the out west with all the
Yeah.
fire and everything going on. Praying for you guys to be safely delivered, saved from the fire.
Amen.
Our Father will deliver those that are His own.
All right.
Well, awesome. We'll see you
Blessings.
guys next time.
Bye bye.
Stay
Blessings.
humble, stay ready.
Yeah.
Firmament will part before you know it.